3 years ago today, I decided to surprise my wife and 2 small boys for the holidays. We'd always decorated our first home carefully on the inside, but I'd never given much thought to the outside look of the house during the holidays. This time it was going to be different. I decided to install Christmas lights. When my wife that night turned onto our street, she tells me that she could see a glow from the distance. And as she drove closer, it became clear that it was our house that was glowing. The kids jumped out of the car and welcomed me with a hero's welcome. I had turned Christmas on. My wife, however, was a little bit more cautious. She gave me the sense that maybe I had overdone it, and that made me feel a little bit insecure. So I decided to take a picture of the house, and I texted the photo to a friend of mine to ask her if I had in fact exaggerated. A couple of hours later, she texted me, "You did well." And I was relieved because I was not Clark Griswold and I had not overdone it. My friend, the same person who had texted me that the house looked great, sent me another text and said, "Dave, I'm coming back from something terrible. My daughter just died." I was in shock, and the situation was unbearably sad and it was complicated. My friend's daughter was 35 years old and had died suddenly in New York City. She wasn't married, she didn't have kids, and so her parents were the next of kin, and they all lived in Montreal while she lived in New York. It was a difficult situation. My friend left New York knowing that she would then have to come back to Montreal and coordinate with the hospital, with the coroner, with the funeral home. She had to get the death certificate, and she had to bring the body back across the border. It was too much for her to handle, and she called me and told me so. She said, "I can't do this, Dave." She had to do all of this, and it was 7 days before Christmas. She had to process her pain, but she told me, "I need to focus on one thing. I've got 4 grandkids, and they need to have their Christmas." And when I heard those words, I realized that they were some of the most impactful words that I'd ever heard in a given context. Here is a mother in overwhelming and undescribable grief, thinking about Christmas for her 4 grandkids. That is parenting. The law says that decisions concerning the children made by parents and the courts have to be made in light of the children's interests. But what does that really mean? There have been hundreds of cases that have interpreted what the interests of the children means. But in reality, what it does mean is what my friend did during that week. Can you step outside of yourself? And can you think of the children? Can you step outside of yourself and address the greater needs in the room, despite having your own needs? My friend went one step beyond that. She said, "Nobody cries on Christmas. We'll cry on the 26th, but the instructions were nobody cries on the 25th. And that's just beautiful. And it's hard to do. Despite the fact that you recognize that your needs exist and that they are real, you can sit at the table and identify that there are other people around you whose needs are greater than yours. And why is that? Well, the holidays have meaning. They're a time where we're supposed to feel hope, renewal, reflection, promise, and a sense of what matters. And being a parent in these situations is affording the children the right to celebrate what is supposed to be a magical experience. And how many magical holidays does one child get? We know that the holidays are treated in a special way. You're paid as an employee in a different way during the holidays. There are custody judgments during the holidays that target how the parents are supposed to share the kids. What this all means is that the holidays are mandated. They are a time where even the state tells you it's time to pause. We have to mandate ourselves to take the opportunity to give the holidays that kind of meaning. The people around us have meaning. And if the people around us have meaning, it's because we must find meaning for ourselves. The holidays, when the couple is suffering, present a contrast. How do you celebrate in the face of your own suffering? And that's the idea of stepping outside of yourself. This doesn't mean that you don't get to bring your grief to the table during the holidays. It just means that you have to recognize that around that table, there are people that are needier than you are. And you have to identify the needier ones, and you have to tend to those needs. And if you're able to achieve that, you've already given a piece of yourself that's so essential during the holidays, and you've given a gift to the children and to the family. So how do you do it? Well, it could start with the communication that you have with your spouse. If your children are in the room, try and avoid any disagreements that could be felt by the kids or that could turn into anything that could flare up. There's no need to argue in front of the kids. There's no need to drive your point home in front of the kids. That also means that you avoid topics that could be a little bit touchy while you're in the room together with the children. But what if the kids are not in the room? It doesn't give you a pass to do and say what you want, how you want. If the kids are not in the room, I would pretend that they are. Because you've got to ask yourself, in the way that you're addressing your spouse, if those kids were in the room, how would those little brains absorb the conversation between their parents, what you're saying, how you're saying it, the pitch in which you're saying it, the tone, the yelling, the insults, the message, the body language? What is it that you're telling each other that goes beyond the words that are coming out of your mouth? And how impactful is that for the kids to see? So if they're in the room, that's an easy thing to understand. But when they're out of the room and you've treated yourselves in ways that could hurt those kids, you're bringing that energy back into the room where the children are. And those kids are going to feel it. And that gives you a sense of depletion and fatigue and stress. And at some point, that's going to manifest itself in front of the kids. And when it does, during those holidays, you've taken something away from them. It's not the lights, it's not the tree, it's not the presents under the tree that give it the Christmas feel or the holiday feel. It's the people around the tree. That is where we feel our sense of connection. Do we put them first, and do they put us first? That is the duty that we have to ourselves during the holidays. It's connecting to the people that give the holidays the charm and the heart that they're supposed to have. There is the meaning. If you connect to that and feel in sync with how important the people around you are, then what's important is to ask yourself, are you in a couple that connects to that as well? Because both of you create that family culture. If your role is to recognize the importance of the people in the room, does your spouse prevent you from exercising that role and playing that part? And that's an important question that you have to ask yourself. If that's a problem, can you discuss that with your spouse? Can you bring it to his or her attention and say, this is something that we need to address? If you feel that sense of connection to your spouse, despite the troubles that you're going through, if you feel that sense of compatibility, that love, that sense of importance to what you mean to one another and to what the family means to you, and that you're just misfiring for a period of time, then you have some answers that you can build on. If the couple is afflicted by basic incompatibility, by that intuitive apprehension that the holidays can bring, and that you're going to be together and spend important moments together, if you feel that intuitive discomfort at the idea of being around the tree to conjure up moments of joy and warmth and love, then you've got some questions that you may want to ask yourself. My friend gave Christmas to her grandkids. She gave Christmas to the entire family in a time of terrible pain. She even answered me to reassure me about my holiday lights. Most of us receiving that kind of a text in that pain would have basically said, not now. It's not the time. She answered me, Even in that little moment, she was able to step outside of herself to just give me that little bit of reassurance that I was looking for. Even in your pain and even in your distress, if you find it within yourself to step outside of yourself during the holidays, you can give yourself the time and space to discover a pretty wonderful gift. You could find your sense of self in your family. Happy holidays to you, to your family, and to your children. Thanks for watching.